After 6 excruciating losses, our San Jose Sharks are finally back in the win column. They put in a pretty solid effort tonight, but let's take a look at the week's games here on A View from Outside the Tank. We look good tonight. Real good. There was a pocket of time in the second period, just like there is every game, where we fell apart a little bit. And it wasn't so much even us falling apart as the Rangers were sort of exerting their will. But tonight was the first time, especially in the first period, where we employed the strategy that I think is going to work best, considering our young legs and lack of experience in some of the lines, which is all gas, no brakes. I think our defense isn't strong enough to help us win 2-1 games, at least not as currently constructed. So we just got to put the pedal to the metal. Let the young boys get out there and do work, and it's going to make for some entertaining hockey. Mac had 3 goals and 2 assists tonight. Will Smith had 2 and 2. Eklund had 3 assists. Misa looked great and had an assist on Gaudet's goal. You know, the pieces are starting to come together. The lines are starting to look solid. Now it's just a matter of getting out there and getting that confidence. And that first win is a big step. Because we've seen the other 6 games. You know, we had some close late losses that should have been wins. You know, you can't lose 2 games when you're up with less than 2 minutes to go in the third period. But we managed to lose both of those games. The game against the Islanders, I thought we completely outplayed them. Just didn't get the result. Even the Penguins game, I think for the most part we outplayed the Penguins, but Tristan Jarry channeled his inner Marc-Andre Fleury and we couldn't get it across. You know, we're looking better. I don't know, you know, I'm not a pro in picking apart systems and figuring out all that stuff. You know, there's been a lot of Fire Warsofsky hashtags going around, but I don't think that's the solution. You're dealing with a lot of young kids that are learning on the job and some veterans that there's a reason they play for us and not for a better team, right? But you're starting to see some things come together and you're starting to see pieces that could actually work for the future. Mac and Will Smith need to be on the same line at all times. I don't know how they know where each other's going to be, but they always do. And that's a wave you have to ride. I think that Gaudet has been a huge pickup. Huge pickup. Gaudet and Graf, I think, both need to be on the same line and probably on the third line. The way they play together is really great. They have been exactly what Misa needs around him, because even though Misa's a 200-foot player, he's a 200-foot player that's never done this before, at least not at this level. And having Graf that has that defensive ability, having Gaudet that has a little defensive ability, but also the knack for putting the puck in the back of the net, like it's nearly a perfect line, at least as far as third lines are concerned. Now, we know long term, Misa doesn't end up on the third line. He ends up somewhere else, probably the second line, just because of how good Mac is. And so I think that when you think about that, you know, your future third line, if we are lucky enough to see a Graf, Gaudet, Cardwell line as our third line, that would be pretty spectacular. That is a line that is both offensively and defensively capable and just pesky. And, you know, when the Sharks were at their best, they had their scorers and they had their lines that were pesky, that got under people's skin. And you don't need to be, you know, it was great to see Revo fight. Revo's been weirdly a great addition. I think he's the right mentality for the locker room. And yeah, I guess he's some form of protection, but even then, like, he's just been playing pretty decent hockey. He's got more legs to him than I thought he was going to have. And he's playing a solid fourth line role. But he's not going to be around forever, and nor should he be. But he's giving the right mentality. He's that guy that gets under your skin. Today he had a pretty spectacular bout with Matt Rempe. Rempe is definitely overrated as an enforcer. He's just an enforcer because he's 6'9", 260. Like, I don't think that he's a particularly good fighter or hockey player in general. He's just really big. And so kudos to him for being large, but he did not win that fight. I mean, Revo hit him so hard that Revo's helmet fell off. That's how hard he swung. It was crazy and great to see. But I think that, we have some bright spots. And I think that if we keep playing that all gas, no brakes, we have the scoring talent for the first time in a really long time to be able to keep up in that kind of track meet. We're going to get wins. And if I had to bet, they're not going to be pretty. It's going to be a lot of this. Like, this was a great game to watch. It was a lot of fun. If you're a person who's new to hockey, like, this is not how many goals are normally scored in a game, but it does make for a more fun game. I grew up playing baseball and pitching, and I love low scoring games, but that's not what puts butts in the seats. What puts butts in the seats is, those amazing feats of being able to score and being able to do amazing things offensively. And that's what this was, and that's what this team can do. I think that watching the first period especially, and us getting in on the forward check and us really establishing time in the offensive zone, the other team can't score if they're not in their offensive zone. And so the more time we spend in theirs, the better. And we've got young legs that are willing to buzz around and do what they need to do to get those pucks. And so just let them eat. Just let them get out there. So tonight was a good first step. There were definitely some depressing points along that stretch. Those late losses definitely were some of those. There were a couple games where we just flat out got dominated. You can see that Carolina for sure is one of the top teams in the NHL. And I, again, don't know systems, but I watched some video of how they were playing against us. And if we can ever manage to play defensively up front the way that they do, man, they create havoc. They're running penalty kills where they're sending 3 guys to the puck carrier because they know that that's going to make that puck carrier make a mistake. Yeah, you're gambling because if he gets it through your 3 guys, then all of a sudden it's 4 on none on the other side, or 4 on 1 on the other side, I guess. But more often than not, it's forcing players into mistakes. And you can see why they're the number 1 penalty killing unit. They do really good work all across the ice, and they force the play instead of just dropping into the diamond and hoping for the best. In the recent games up until this game, obviously Dickinson didn't play this game, but he's been looking much better, much more comfortable on the ice. So it's good to see Misa and Dickinson coming along and feeling it out and figuring out who they are. The other thing I was thinking today is, honestly, we've got a lot of young kids that they're kids still. They haven't filled out. Just wait until some of these guys put some mass on, because there are times throughout the games that they're losing puck battles right now that they're not going to lose those. Like, they're too strong to lose them, or they will be too strong to lose them. And so you get excited about moments like that too. Tomorrow's going to be more difficult. By the time I post this, probably today is going to be more difficult. The Devils are an outstanding hockey team, and we're coming off a back-to-back, but who knows? Crazier things have happened, right? So hopefully you see that same kind of energy today, again, depending on when I post this. But I really like our chances going forward. Defensively, it's been a challenge. I think we knew it was going to be. You bring in some older guys that, if it's 2025 now, so if it's 2017, 2018, we're probably doing pretty well, but it's not anymore. So that's created some issues tonight. Leddy gets hurt, which probably is a blessing in disguise. Hopefully that means Dickinson was going to be out there tomorrow anyway, but I think that Dickinson right now provides more than Leddy does. And so I think that you'll actually see a better defensive game from us tomorrow. Or from us against the Devils, again, whenever I post this. But the defense definitely has a long way to go. Mario Ferraro, people around the league seem to love him. I know Sharks fans love him. But if we can get literally anything for him, that'd be great. We're about to go into Minnesota, and Minnesota just paid Brock Faber a whole bunch of money, and he's a right shot defenseman, and he was really big early on and has fallen off a little bit, and kind of is one of those change of scenery candidates. And, you look at Minnesota's roster, and it's possible they could use a guy like Ferraro to sort of hold down the third pairing minutes and be able to jump up to second pairing if need be, because of injuries or whatever. But I think that there's a world where we could talk Minnesota into getting out from under Faber's contract, which we can very easily absorb, and give a right-handed running mate to Dickinson, or maybe he only turns out to be a second pairing defender, but that's okay. We don't have a whole lot of depth on the right side. And if we play well enough, we're going to play our way out of Keaton Verhoff, which, is the ideal partner for Dickinson at the top, at least right now, as far as the draft's concerned. But I think picking up a guy like Faber really changes the overall build of the team. And I think if we can get him and give him that change of scenery, it's going to be hard, because if it doesn't work out, then you're eating $8.5 million a year or whatever he's being paid. I think it's pretty close to that on a player that isn't worth that. But also, 3 or 4 years down the road, a guy right now that's worth $5 million, which is probably what he's worth, $8.5 million is going to be the equivalent. So, you can kind of get him at the value that he's going to be a couple years from now. But yeah, defense needs a lot of work. Askey and Ned have had a rough go. They're not playing terribly, but I think if you asked either of them, there are definitely pucks that they'd like to have back in every game. Some are bad bounces. That happens. Obviously, Ned in the first game had a couple that, man, he would love to get those back. But every game you see it. Askey, I'm not worried about. I know he's going to be our goalie of the future. I know that the talent is there. You don't have that talent. I understand the AHL and NHL are two different levels, but you don't have the talent he had at the AHL level and then just completely fall apart at the NHL level. I think, some of it is the stress of stepping into a full-time NHL role before, when it's just cameo stuff. It's well, I still get to go back down to the AHL and dominate, so it really doesn't matter what I do, and then you end up having a good game. He's not the guy yet. They're splitting dead even 50-50 right now, but he's being looked at as the guy who's going to be the guy. And the only part that's concerning for me right now is that he's doing a lot where he is not moving, and that's concerning. The goals that he's letting in that at least look soft, he's moving his body to get to the point, but then his arms don't move. And I think that's something that, he knows that we don't need to win right now, so it's not as huge a concern. And you hope that this is him working through, okay, first steps are getting myself to the point where my body's in position every time I need to make a play. But eventually we need to cross that bridge where he's moving his arms and trying to catch pucks and trying to block her pucks away and stuff like that. But I'm not worried. We're 7 games into the season. He's played 3 of them. It's going to get better. It's not going to be. We didn't send away Georgiev to have 2 goalies that are giving up 5 or more a night. That's not a real thing. So both of those guys will get better. They're playing behind a team defense that really isn't very good. And so there's adjustment to that too, and knowing how to make up for the deficiencies of the people in front of you. So I think you'll see better goaltending in the future. I think that, as we look forward in the season, our wins are going to be a lot of 4-3, 5-3 wins. Again, the goal scoring potential is there. You've got Toffoli, who's almost a 30 automatic. You've got Mac, who looks like he's probably a 30 to 40 guy this year in his second year, which is crazy to me. Eklund hasn't even started scoring yet. You know how streaky he is. Like, once he gets going, it's going to be probably a 25 to 30 goal season for him. Skinner, he's probably past his goal scoring prime, but like he's had a couple goals this season where it's like, man, maybe there is another 30 in him. I don't know. Gaudette's been a revelation. I think that he's probably chalked up for at least 20. And that's not even getting to Will Smith. And Michael Misa hasn't scored a goal yet. So, like, I think that you're going to see a lot of track meet hockey this season. I think there's going to be a lot of high scoring games, and that's fun for fans. And I hope that me knowing that that's fun for fans, I hope the big thing, you know, being here in Arizona, not being able to be there for it, I hope what that does is it creates an excitement in the arena, and that you don't see the games anymore where it's at best it looked like 5,000 people in the arena. Like, that place is best when it's full. And the Tank for 25 years was my home away from home. And when it's full and it's rocking and the team's playing well, there's no building like it. And so I just hope that these little offensive explosions that we have really, you know, get the interest of the people. And it's like, you sit there and you see it, you know, you can see the future being good. You can see the future being strong. And so to me, and I'm not them, so I don't know what they spend their money on, but to me, like, that's worth the price of admission to get in on the ground floor, to see these guys like work through that youth and work through who they are as players, and be there when it all hits. And no, it's not going to hit this year, but there are things that are going to hit this year. Like, Mac is clearly already making the next step. Will Smith is currently playing at better than point per game. And if you asked me at the end of last year if I thought that this year you'd be looking at a guy potentially that could do a point a game in Will Smith, I would have said no. And so I still don't think that's the case. But if you get 70 points out of Will Smith, that's a huge second year step. And that's exciting. And that's the stuff that people should be showing up for. And same thing with Askey. Like, we've had good goalies. And we've also had some goalies that we got to see like grow up before our eyes. Like, Nabby didn't get dropped onto the team and immediately was, you know, a Vezina candidate. He had to work towards it a little bit too. Like, maybe he didn't have the same type of shaky starts that Askey's having right now. But I think that it's going to be exciting when Askey's talent and confidence catch up to the NHL level, because when that happens, he's going to be that next big thing between the pipes for us. And we've been fortunate. We've had Nabby, we had Urbe. As much as people bash on Martin Jones, what Martin Jones did for a 2-3 year stretch there was pretty fantastic. Like, he was carrying our team on his back. We've had Mika Kiprasov in the system. There have been really good goalies that come through, and so I'm excited for Askarov to be that next one. I think we have some really good talent in the pipeline as well. That's great for right now. I don't think he's the long-term solution for partner for Askarov. Based on the draft position, you would assume it's Ravensburgen. Kirsch has played really well in the system. Matt Davis obviously is a NC2A champion. There are guys there that can be that next partner for Askey, and you get excited for that potential. The schedule ahead for sure is challenging. You know, if we can muster a split on the road before going home, like, that's a big step. You know, again, realistically, it's probably not going to happen against the Devils, but crazier things that have happened. Minnesota's looked good to start the season, but I think that they're a kind of team that we can get in a track meet with and end up doing pretty well. Then you come home, and it's the Kings, who have had moments of looking good, but definitely are one of the most damaged teams from last year to this year. Like, they really messed up their roster good and lost some guys that were really important to them, that they may not have even understood were important. Like, sending Spence away to Ottawa was a terrible move. letting Gavrikov go to New York was a terrible move. Most of their mistakes were on defense, but like I see them coming back to the group a little bit more. I think they played above their ability last year, and I think you're going to see them regress to the mean a little bit. After the Kings, you have the Devils again. Like the Devils twice in a week on the road and at home is kind of weird, but it's good. Gets them out of the way early, right? And then you follow that up with Colorado, who is an absolute unit right now. So it's not going to get any easier. But I think that each win, this win especially, having those two sort of demoralizing goals in the game where you score them in the last 20 seconds, watching a lead go away and then finding a way to tie it, finding a way to then score the winning goal in overtime. Like, those things go a long way. And this feels like a team, especially with the youth on it, that they just need those moments of confidence. They need those wins under their belts to remind them how good they are at hockey. Like, I think what we don't realize a lot, especially with NHL players, is they've spent, well, not NHL players, like any major league sport athlete, right? They've spent most of their life not knowing what it's like to lose. They've never done it. Like, they've always been on winning teams because they and their teammates have been so much better than the guys that they're playing against that they just win. And so I think that is the biggest area where you see those growing pains, is watching how they react to those losses, watching how they adjust and figure out how to operate and still be effective even if they're losing. And so I think that that's where you're going to see the most opportunity for growth in the team. And I think that's where you're going to see, or why you're going to see a bunch of losses, because they don't know yet how to adjust. And it's something that you learn, and it's something like nobody likes losing. And so there are two ways it goes. Either they take these losses and take them personally, don't really recover from them, or what I imagine is going to be more the case, especially with guys like Mac, because of the compete level you can see in him already. They're going to take that and they're going to let it create a fire, so that is what drives them to be even better the next game. So that's, more stuff to get excited about on this team. Final thoughts for this week. We look better. We're not good yet, and that's okay. The Fire Warsofsky thing is ridiculous. It's still early in the process, and I think too many people look at him as the guy that was an assistant to David Quinn, and so they just assume he's an extension of David Quinn, but he's won at all the levels he's coached prior to the NHL, so wins are coming for him. And my only hope is that we give him the time for those wins to come with us, because he's a great coach. I think that, there's some tweaking that needs to be done. The power play and the penalty kill haven't always looked good. They've looked better lately for sure. The power play puck movement's been great. Penalty kill, the results have been better. So hopefully that keeps going. And, the other thing I hope is just that we give the players the time they deserve. Again, you've got the youngest, well, I don't know that it's the youngest roster in the league, but probably the most concentration of young players. You've got 3 guys that are under 20 still, maybe 4 guys that are under 20, taking fairly regular rotations in the lineup. You've got a goalie making his first meaningful starts in the NHL. And so patience is key. I know that it feels like we've been patient for a long time because we got so used to winning for so long. And now it's been 6 years since we made the playoffs. And you know what? I don't care if it goes 7 or 8 years, as long as what's on the other side is even better than what I got to witness for a really long time. I don't want 2016 to be the only Stanley Cup final I get to go to. And I think that if we trust this squad, trust the coach, trust the kids to continue learning and to continue get better, there are brighter times ahead, and probably sooner than all of us expect. So we're going to have bad games. We're going to have stinkers, honestly, but be patient. It's coming. And I can't wait to be there in the tank celebrating the growth that this team has had. Thanks for watching. Definitely make an opportunity if you would like to reach out. You can find us at viewfromoutsidethank@gmail.com. You can send me an email, ask me a question. Maybe I'll have an answer. Who knows? I'm still new. And I'm happy to hear everything you guys have to say. I know that there are going to be opinions that are different than mine. And I know I'm probably a glasses half full kind of guy when it comes to my hockey team. So I'm excited to hear anything you guys have to say. So definitely find some time to reach out. Thanks again for watching. And hopefully I'll get this on a regular schedule soon so you'll have a better idea of when episodes are going to hit. Until then, I'll see you later. And can't wait to give you my view from outside the tank.